47, this is Greatest Hits Radio Drive Time. Thank you very much for all the confessions that have been coming in over the last week. Don't forget, every single one gets a smart speaker, which is a fine thing. And the first smart... Let me just check in with Sister Susie in the saloon bar, making sure she's still there.
I am.
Just working on... What is it? What's the love punch? What would be the ingredients in the pub's love punch, by the way?
Probably a rum of some sort.
Yes.
Maybe some raspberry shrub. I don't know.
Shrub?
Make it up.
Some raspberry shrub. I don't know.
What's a shrub doing?
What is that?
It's a cocktail ingredient.
Oh, right. Okay.
Makes things pink.
Right, well, all down to the pub, because that sounds like a much better than the Greatest Hits water, which Matt routinely has. Anyway, so every smart speaker then is handed out on a Monday to Thursday basis, and the first one goes to Jackie. For today's tale, Father Simon, I am writing this in the hope that by confessing to you, I should say, what certificate is this? 12.
12, okay.
Borderline 15.
Right.
I'm writing this in the hope that by confessing to you I can find some peace and some solace for my soul after what I did. I am a 60-year-old granny. I run a quite successful business with one of my 3 daughters, delivering and collecting parcels, which has been very busy at the moment, obviously due to COVID. I pride myself in being professional at all times when dealing with customers. I'm sure you agree, Father Simon, that being professional can get you through all kinds of scrapes. If you have your reputation intact, you can navigate the hurly-burly of modern business practice. I do agree, obviously. That's a true thing, as far as I'm aware. So, after a long day out doing my deliveries, I always spend time before I relax dealing with the next day's collections. This means I'm ahead of the game. When I rise the next morning, I know I have already begun the tasks on my to-do list. So on this particular day, as we get to the end of the deliveries, I noticed that one customer had contacted me through Facebook Messenger. They were booking a collection for the next day. With it being my last message of the day, I set about winding down for the day, check the message, read the message, understand the message, and wind down at the same time. Now, clearly, as I was about to learn, these two things do not go well together.
Oh, dear.
Either wind down or deal with business.
Yes.
Not both. So here, Father Simon and the team is my cautionary tale. A few minutes after noticing this email and this customer, I noticed to my absolute horror that I had accidentally video called that customer.
No.
Oh, no.
Now you might be asking, you may well be asking, what's the problem? This is 2022. That's the way you trade. Well, Father Simon, the problem was that I was climbing in the bath at that moment. And so I was, as I believe you say, stark naked. I was in the altogether, but altogether, the altogether, naked as the day that I was born. Au naturel, totally starkers. I quickly cancelled the call, but froze, as you would, but froze with disbelief, one leg in the bath and one leg out, leaning over the far side of the bath for stability, you understand.
Yeah, of course.
I read the message. You made a 4-second video call to said customer. Now, I know 4 seconds doesn't seem very long.
It's enough.
But I've since videoed a reconstruction, which I have to say made things even worse. Let me tell you, if you're in any doubt, 4 seconds is quite long enough. Thank you very much. It might not be Pam and Tommy's sex tape, but, you know, it was bad enough. I rang my daughters for reassurance, hoping that they would, reassure me, but couldn't detect much reassurance or sympathy in their roaring laughter that followed my confession. I sent the poor man a long, grovelling apology, but only got a very curt reply. I did stalk him on Facebook for a while to make sure he hadn't posted said video, but I think he's blocked me, as you might do. In my defence, it was an accident. I really hope the therapy I'm sure he needed afterwards is working for him. Needless to say, he's not booked a collection. Well, there's someone with another side to this tale who may well be listening. get in touch. Anyway, Jackie's unfortunate Facebook Messenger moment. Sister Susie down the pub.
Oh, Jackie, that really, really made me laugh. My cheeks are hurting. Do you know what? I was going to say, we've all been there. That moment where you've done something.
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, it's new technology. It's scary. It's that moment where you accidentally broadcast live on something, and someone messages you and says, "Don't do that. You're live. Go turn it off." It's happened. I promise you, it's happened to more people. Maybe not you two, but it's happened to people. So therefore, I'm going to forgive you because it's just really embarrassing, and I hope you've recovered.
I think Susie's got quite a story to tell there. Brother from another gutter.
Yes, I mean, I'm going to go with Susie. I mean, the problem here is the technology, isn't it? It's not Jackie's fault. It's the problem of the phone, and this is absolutely one of those times where you say, "I'd love to hear the story from the other side." What a way to start! What a way to start the week!
I only wanted a parcel delivered.
There you go.
And then
it looks like. Anyway, yeah, definitely forgiven.
Is she in the bath?
Yeah.
Okay, so people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Jackie? Yes or no? 61054. First word is Simon. That'll be a very nice thing. You can email Simon at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. On tonight's confession, Jackie had an unfortunate moment when she was trying to send a message whilst entering the bath. And it meant that sadly, she actually sent a video of herself entering the bath to her customer, who disappeared very quickly and didn't take delivery of anything. People's verdict is in. Here it comes.
Yes, this is going to be one of those times where verdicts can be anonymous. So Anonymous says, "I forgive Jackie as it happened to me. Though I had a good outcome, I've been with him for 12 years. Another Anonymous says, "Forgiven. I accidentally FaceTimed the admin of a Facebook group very late from bed because of texting while charging. Got an understandably stroppy message back about invasion of privacy." And finally, Stuart in Wigan says, "Forgiven. No harm, no trowel." No harm, no trowel.
No trowel.
Towel.
Towel.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, let's
Trowel.
okay. So
Let's try that
what's
again.
that? What's that last one again?
No
then
harm, no towel.
no harm, no towel.
towel.
I was thinking, have I missed a gardening reference? Am I being slower than normal? And the answer was
Trowel.
no.
Dear.
Anyway, so Jackie gets the smart speaker. Thank you, Jackie. Not her real name. You'll be surprised to learn. If you have a confession for us and you fancy a smart speaker, well, it's confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. The confessions are Monday to Thursday at this time. If yours is read out, you get a smart speaker. That's the deal. Thank you very much. And who is getting today's rather fine smart speaker? Well, the answer is Roger. All names changed, of course, because that's the way we like to do it. Today's talent, obviously, will need the people's verdict as soon as you sat in judgment. Father Simon of the Collective says, Rog, I thought some time ago we had lost you forever. Well, imagine my surprise when, quite by accident, I heard you were back on another excellent radio station and have listened to you ever since. The key thing there is, I hope they're listening in marketing. Quite by accident. So that the TV ad and the taxis and the very nice pictures.
Yeah.
Anyway, Roger, it's very nice to have you. Thank you. However you've stumbled upon Greatest Hits Radio, it's nice to have you there. Pass it on. Tell your friends. I have, for reasons that will become obvious, changed all my names in this tale. My confession goes back a very long time, but I thought I'd better send it to you before I become too old to remember.
Okay. Happens to the best of us.
This is very good. My confession, Father Simon, starts around 1953, 1954. I was 7 or 8 years old. I lived on a main road in South London, and the streets and the bomb sites were our playground, although we did have lovely parks and commons nearby as well. With all the local children, we formed gangs, and to join a gang, you had to be initiated. Some listeners may remember the Just William programmes on black and white television. At my initiation, I was blindfolded and had to rub my hands into an unknown goo and then rub it all over my face. The goo turning out to be mud, but hey-ho, after a wash I was in the gang. I think initiation ceremonies, Father Simon, might have moved on just a little bit since then.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
Are you in a gang?
No.
Are you in a gang, Sister Susie?
No.
No, okay. I'm not in a gang either.
Okay.
Just, anyway, Rog is in a gang. That's all you need to know. The leader of our gang, we were about 7 or 8 strong, was an older boy, much bigger, who we shall call Fred. And this particular day in question, all the other gang members were otherwise engaged, not literally, of course, adds Roger helpfully, and that left Fred and myself at a loose end. So Fred suggested I go to his home about a dozen doors along the road. Now, Fred and his family lived above his uncle's shop, and as you open the front door, the staircase is immediately in front of you, and as you get to the top, there are 3 doors. The door on the left goes into the dining room and the kitchen. The door in front is a small toilet, and the door to the right is to the bedrooms. Now, for some reason, I was never invited to birthday parties at Fred's. I assumed his mum didn't like me very much. That's always the way. It was terrible. Why do I never get invited to those parties? Answer, either Fred didn't like you really, or maybe it was the parents. Anyway, so I said to Fred, it wasn't a good idea to go round to his, because if his mum came back, she would not be happy. Fred said she won't be at home till at least 1 o'clock at lunchtime. So we had a pleasant couple of hours playing Cowboys and Indians. Yes, really. When, to my horror, we heard the front door open, and it's only 12:30. She's home early. Quick, says Fred. Go and... Not right, said Fred. Quick, says Fred. Go and hide in the toilet until Mum has come into the kitchen.
Oh, good.
Then quietly creep downstairs, and as you go out, don't slam the door. It wasn't much of a plan, but at least it was a plan. I managed to get into the toilet just before Fred's mum started to climb the stairs. Father Simon, I was terrified and quite literally shaking in my shoes. Clump, clump. The noise was getting closer. Clump, clump. Closer still. Then a big thump, and then a second thump as I realised the thumping were the shopping bags being put on the floor outside the toilet. She appeared not to be going into the kitchen.
No.
What was going on? Well, the answer, Father Simon, is worse than you could possibly imagine. Slowly, the toilet door started to open towards me. Fred's mum, with her...
Oh, no.
with her dress already pulled up.
Oh, no.
Taking down her voluminous undergarments to use the toilet, she reversed into the toilet.
Oh, no.
It was only seconds, but the stately appearance of Fred's mum's bottom felt like it took hours. This just wasn't covered in the Just William books, as I recall, nor any edition of the Beano or Dan Dare. My life flashed past me, just as Fred's mum's bottom did. Well, what's a chap to do? In utter desperation, I did the only thing I could think of. I shrieked as loud as I could. Fred's mum jumped, clearly as terrified as I was. I pushed past her as she pulled up her voluminous underwear. I almost fell down the stairs out of the front door, and I ran as fast as my shaky legs would carry me. Never have I seen such a terrifying sight from that day to this.
Wow.
Father Simon, in view of the fact that I was very, very young, could I please be forgiven? Kind regards, and keep up the best show on the radio. Yeah. Well, I like very, very nice payoff there. Final flourish from Roger. Sister Susie, what do you say? Terrifying.
Well, Roger, it's not really your fault, is it? I feel like you carried this around for quite a while, and you were only a little boy. And, you know, you might have scared the mum, but she kind of scared you too. And it was her fault for not wanting you around the house. So maybe. I just think you're only a child. You didn't mean any harm.
It must have been a very, very small toilet. If you have to start removing your undergarments before you actually... if you have to reverse in.
Reverse into the toilet.
That's a small toilet.
We had a little toilet in one of our houses, which was like almost like an under-the-stairs toilet. And you kind of did a little
bit of a shuffle
as you went in. But yeah, I can't even imagine. Where was he hiding? Was he literally on the toilet? I don't know. I forgive him anyway.
Brother from another guy.
Well, there wasn't any room. Was this a thing in the 50s where you had to undress on the landing and then back into the toilet?
You have to reverse in.
What's that?
Your dress already hoisted.
No. We went through a lot in the war. So I'm going to forgive because who saw this coming? I certainly didn't see that coming, and neither did he. So, yes, definitely forgiven.
Right, for no apparent reason, really,
at all.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's kind of 1-1 in the studio. Down to you. Do you forgive Roger, yes or no, on the People's Verdict? 61054. Start your message with Simon. Once we've dealt with Roger, who sent us a confession. He's been waiting since the mid-50s to find out if he can be forgiven when he was hiding in the toilet and Fred's mum reversed into the toilet, already hoisting up and dropping where garments needed to be hoisted and dropped. Anyway, and he was terrified, as indeed you would be, aged 7. So the people's verdict is in. What does it say?
So John says, I don't forgive Roger. If he knew Fred's mum didn't like him, then they should have found somewhere else to play. Rachel there says, completely forgiven. It should be Fred's mum asking for forgiveness from Roger for inflicting that size on him. A vision no doubt imprinted on his memory. Poor Roger. And Tom says, I forgive Roger. I can't believe it took him so long to confess. I hope that he's feeling relieved now, especially if he has the rarity that is forgiveness from Sister Susie.
I know. That was a very lovely and a very cherished thing. Anyway, Roger gets the smart speaker, and if you fancy one of those, then send us a tale. confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Let's gather round. Brother Matthew is in the studio because that's all fine and dandy.
I am indeed.
He is. Sister Susie, I'm not sure if you're there or there. I'm just checking.
I'm here.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
There she is.
In the saloon bar with a quaffable schooner of creme de menthe.
Oh, I don't know if I could do a schooner of creme de menthe.
No, okay, all right. Well, you probably can't order any anyway. I wouldn't think you've had this much. I don't think there are many people going into the pub saying, quick creme de menthe, please, madam.
No.
Tonight's tale comes from Martin. Sends in this. People's verdict will be expected. Father Simon, the assembled collective, although he actually writes corrective, so I'm not quite sure whether that's being very clever or not. This confession goes back to 1963, when things in the world were somewhat different from today in just about every way you can imagine. I was just 8 years old. My dad was in the RAF, and me and my brothers had been put in boarding school. This was because Dad moved around a lot with the RAF, but he's given me a stable and consistent education from juniors to senior school. The prep school in question was a beautiful school, very large, had extended property right in the middle of extensive and extremely well-maintained gardens. These are all very important points. To the front of the schoolhouse was a well-manicured lawn, about the size of a standard football pitch. This was surrounded by an ornate brick wall about 2 feet high. Situated on the far side of this lawn and furthest away from the house was a rather grand and immaculately kept statue. Now, regular listeners will know that statues never come out very well out of confessions. This depicted the saint after whom the school was named after. We're going to change the name of the saint.
Brilliant.
So you can't identify the school. We're going to call him St. Custard.
St. Custard?
St. Custard, yes.
Right.
Therefore, nothing is identifiable.
Okay.
The statue of St. Custard stood about 5 feet tall, was on a solid plinth. Total height about 7 feet. It displayed St. Custard holding the baby Jesus in one hand, which obviously really happened, and the child sitting on his arm. And his other hand was outstretched as if in invitation to anyone who wanted to join them. This was the pride and joy of the school, and many fetes were conducted in front of him on the beautiful lawn. I was in a dorm of 5 boys. It's positioned on the ground floor at the front, and it looked out onto the pride and joy of the school, in other words, the lawn and St. Custard. The dorm had 2 entrances. One door that led into the main part of the house, and the patio doors that led out to the veranda. These in turn led onto the lawn and the statue and our fabulous saint. Lights out, 8:30. And we were expected to sleep until 7 the following morning. So this night, which happened to be the first day back after the holes, the lights were turned off as usual, and we all pretended to be going to sleep. Soon as about 5 minutes had passed, we all assembled on one bed and excitedly ate the snacks that we'd been saving up from the school tuck shop for this very occasion. Snacks were plentiful and varied. There were some pop bottles, many various different chocolate wrappers, crisp packets, just about anything 8-year-old boys could find to eat, including chew gum, which was, of course, frowned upon. After about an hour, we started daring each other, small dares to begin with, and then, of course, it turned to the inevitable, a group dare to reach the statue on the far side of the lawn. Our exit was courtesy of the French doors. Now, this was a group effort. We then had to decide who was going to lead the way, which route we would take, and what to do when we got there. This is obviously the important question. The result was we would place some bottles on the various parts of the statue. He did, after all, have an outstretched, welcoming hand. Now, due to our height being quite small, one person was required to carry a chair, enabling us to reach the parts of St. Custard.
Okay.
Mainly, but not exclusively, his outstretched fingers.
Okay.
I accepted this assignment. Now, it's early September, and must be about 9 o'clock in the evening. We felt safe in the knowledge that it was getting dark. We were like members of the Great Escape tunnelling team, because that ended well.
Yeah.
We moved quick and lightly over towards the statue, me carrying this blasted chair. Several times I stopped and sat on it, and each time it created rather cute, but somehow deep holes in the lawn. How unfit is Martin? If he's just running a few steps, then he has to sit down on the chair.
Right.
Anyway, eventually we reached the statue. We put the chair in position, and one person stood on the chair as he received the required number of bottles for the saint's hand. It very soon became evident that there were more bottles than the saint had fingers. So by carefully repositioning the chair, we were able to continue to adorn the statue with cherryade, cream soda, limeade, and dandelion and burdock bottles.
Wow.
Yes,
It is the 60s.
It is the 1960s. Not wishing to carry our rubbish back, we then decided that the statue could be further offered the crisps and the chocolate bar wrappers. Lastly, we placed a piece of chewing gum on the nose of the baby Jesus. This was probably not a good thing to do. We exited Lawn Right and made our way back to the dorm. The following morning in the large dining room, there seemed to be somewhat of a commotion taking place. Instead of the boys sitting there waiting their turn for breakfast, everyone, including the teachers, staring out of the windows towards the lawned area and our newly decorated fabulous statue. We're all told to sit down and to stop talking. After a few minutes, the headmaster and the matron appeared at the head table. We were simply told that whoever was responsible for the chaotic new look of the statue and whoever was responsible for the numerous holes in the lawn needed to own up now. We looked at each other. Nobody said a word. As a result, the whole school were told there would be no tuck shop for the rest of the term.
Oh dear.
Outrageous and terrible. And looking back, I must admit I did miss not going to the tuck shop for over 6 weeks. I did miss the chocolate and the crisps and the bottles of fizzy pop. I suppose I seek forgiveness not from the teachers or the headmaster. Almost certainly all have passed away. Or from the head groundsman whose lawn we so seriously damaged, but from the other pupils, 95 of them, who had no tuck shop for the rest of that term. Also, I need forgiveness from the baby Jesus for the unnecessary nose job that he got. Seeking forgiveness somewhat belatedly, to be perfectly honest. Well, let's see how we go on. Forgiveness for Martin, Sister Susie, the voice of responsibility.
Well, Martin, I like the commitment that you went to, and it was a dare, so you were only children. However, it was just too much. I think you didn't need the chewing gum. It was a bit, you were littering. It wasn't very nice. So I'm sorry. I'm not going to forgive you.
A brother from another gutter.
I mean, does this collective punishment thing ever work? If nobody admits to it, then the whole school's getting banned. That never works, because no one's going to admit to it. So waste of time from the school, as far as I'm concerned. And this must have happened before. There must have been kids who've been adorning this saint with, bottles and chewing gum. Must have happened before. School should have been prepared for it. And just the adorning of St. Custard, as far as I'm concerned, must have been a trifling matter.
Oh my goodness.
St. Custard,
okay.
Trifling matter.
People's verdict on the text, please. 61054. First word is Simon. Okay, man, it wasn't that good.
Trifle. Yep.
Funny.
So, just before all of that fun and games, we had top confession from Martin, which is called I Turned to Stone, all about the school that he was in and the statue of St. Custard, which was adorned with bottles, wrappers, and the baby Jesus got some chewing gum on his nose. The people's verdict is in. Here it is.
So Doug in Stevenage says, I forgive him, as he's obviously a trailblazer for today's contemporary art movement, and the school should now recognise his artwork and reward him. Grant in Bromyard says, forgiven simply for Mr. Mayo's reference to St. Custard's from the fantastic Molesworth books.
Boom.
And Rachel says, my 15-year-old son is also at boarding school. Having laughed all the way through the confession, he said, definitely forgiven, 7 because we've all been out of school at night, and then stop suddenly because he realised what he just confessed to.
Very, very good. I like that very much. Thank you very much. So your confession, please. We love it for tomorrow's programme. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Not that we'll be concentrating too much about the sunrise, I suspect tomorrow.
Yeah.
First thing. So here comes tonight's confession. It comes from Buster. Thanks, Buster. Father Simon and Matt and Sister Susie. I have decided to finally tell my tale after 14 years. My request for redemption dates back to 2008. During this year, my wife and I were on one of our semi-regular trips to Australia, and on the return journey we stopped off in Beijing. Our hotel there was extremely nice, and on the first morning we descended downstairs to see a rather lavish spread with everything one could possibly want for breakfast. Having been lucky enough to stay in some very nice hotels, coupled with the fact that I, in particular, am pretty tight when it comes to spending, I decided that taking a few items from the aforementioned spread for lunch later on would not be something the hotel would object to, particularly given it was an all-you-can-eat affair. I should say, I suspect that a number of people have done similar to this. I should say that upon attending such breakfasts with a layout, we first of all survey what is available and come up with a plan of attack, if you will. On this occasion, we had been shown to our table on first arrival, noticed that the table next to us seemed not to be taken, apart from a napkin on the table. On our return from our initial recce of the breakfast, I saw that we were a couple of items of cutlery short. So after a look around, I took replacements from the adjacent table, just as the couple came back to their table with their breakfast items. At this point, my wife's stares were a sight to behold. Given our location, there was something of a language barrier, which probably made my explanation to them a little lame. What with them not speaking English, and it actually being
Beijing
in China. However, having explained, with the help of a waiter, that taking cutlery from other tables in England is a form of respect.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got away with it. They did look somewhat bemused, though, but they bowed to us, shaking their heads at the same time. I don't know. I'm sure that's significant.
Well done. Yeah.
I did think of bowing in return, but had visions of the famous Mr. Bean scene with HRH the Queen, so I decided against it. Having decided to borrow a few items of the food for lunch, then I proceeded to have several trips to the buffet, each time bringing something new as a tasty lunchtime snack. I managed to get several extra napkins to stash our swag and transferred the food with stealth and aplomb from plate to napkin to rucksack on a regular basis.
Okay.
Boy, we were good at this.
Yeah.
The looks on the faces of the waiting staff was rather amusing. I don't think they could decide how we were shifting food at such an astonishing rate, or perhaps why so many napkins were disappearing so quickly. As I said, we were very good. No one could see what was going on. However, I cannot really account for what I did next. Another visit to the buffet revealed some rather nice-looking hash browns, large hash browns, size of your hand. For an inexplicable reason, I decided to put one in each trouser pocket. Now, this would maybe have not been quite so bad had it not been for the fact that they were incredibly hot.
Of course. Ooh. Yeah.
On return to our table and with a rucksack full of napkins and lunch, we decided to depart breakfast. As we prepared to go, our neighbouring table, now with a fresh complement of cutlery, stood to bow again, signalling to me an acceptance, I thought, of my earlier shaky explanation. As I prepared to bow in return, I felt as though I was truly integrating into the customs of this fabulous country. However, in my haste to do this, it momentarily slipped my mind that the still incredibly hot hash browns were in my pockets, and that one of my pockets had a considerable hole in it. So as I bent from the waist in deference to my fellow diners, the hash browns squashed where one would not wish them to go, then oozed in a way I would not wish them to ooze.
Oh, dear.
Ouch.
Only this explained the strangled noise of excruciating pain that was coming from my smiling face. This, I realise now, appeared rude and culturally inappropriate. Clearly they were shocked and appalled. So really, double forgiveness please from your team. 1, to my fellow diners for stealing their cutlery and squealing like a castrated pig. 2, to the hotel for having lunch on them. I suppose the hash brown injury was penance for my indiscretions, and my wife found it extremely funny. By the way, we didn't eat the hash browns.
No. No.
And you should know that my limp disappeared after a week or so. We had breakfast elsewhere the next day at my wife's insistence, and we bought lunch. Anyway, that's Buster's tale. I suspect there might be a number of people who've tried to help themselves to the buffet, but if there's a moral, don't put boiling hash browns in your pocket, particularly if you're then going to bow and they're going to leak in places that they should not leak. Sister Susie, voice of authority.
No one wants that. Well, Buster, I just think you were a little bit greedy, weren't you? You know, everyone takes a little bit to maybe have a bit later, but fill in a bag and then your pocket.
An apple might be one thing, or a banana.
Yeah, it's just a bit too much. So therefore, I can't forgive you. I'm afraid you were too greedy.
Sounds like you had like a waffle in each pocket. Brother from another gutter.
I love all-you-can-eat buffets. I mean, it is all-you-can-eat, I suppose, all-you-can-carry, obviously. But, when I go to them, never, ever fill up on bread. Rookie mistake. Never, ever have the bread. But, maybe the Chinese guests knew that it is indeed a sign of respect to stick hash browns down your pockets and will have taken it as that. So I think everyone was fine in the end.
Do you think?
So I'm going to forgive.
What a tolerant man you are.
I am.
It's the people's verdict is what we're after, please. 61054. What do you think? Do you forgive Buster, yes or no? 61054. First word is Simon. If you have a confession for us, it's confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. But the people's verdict, just before the food, is coming next. Top confession came in from Buster, all about the breakfast buffet and some unfortunate hash browns in his trouser pockets. The people's verdict is in like this.
Yes, Carol says, I don't forgive. Like Sister Susie said, he was just being greedy. He was lucky he didn't cause any permanent damage. Dave says, hi Simon, I can relate to that story. A long time ago, I used to work at a certain fast food joint, and regularly I used to stuff chicken nuggets into my pocket, forgetting every time that they were boiling hot. Wow. Suffice to say, I still have red marks on my legs to this day. I have to forgive.
You're kidding, really? Permanently scarred by the chicken nuggets.
Yeah, indeed.
It's a top tale. Thank you very much indeed for those. Your confession for next week. Don't forget, everyone that we read out gets a smart speaker. Buster has got tonight's. If you would like one of next week's, you send us an email. confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.